May God's peace and blessings be upon us. These are documents that we have spread out on the table that relate to the application and finalization of a residential loan that is applied for. These documents have been put together by very masterful commercial multi-billion-dollar whales, I would call them. Whales are sharks on the Sea of Commerce. And none of us who have our little meager earnings, our tidbit, so insignificant financial strengths in the world of commerce could ever compare with them. So when you get a notice or you go into something with Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Chase, Citicorp, Bank of America, American Express, these are multi-billion-dollar commercial whales on the ocean of commerce. And we enter into financial transactions or financial relationships, commercial and private. At the top of each page or letter that they send you is the name of their corporation or what they represent. So if you get a notice or you're entering into or about to sign something from a multi-billion-dollar profit-making entity, you have to be extremely cautious. Proceed with caution, because there's no way in your right mind that you should believe that a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate is going to enter into a relationship with you that will be profitable to you and not to them. So you have to beware, because anytime we enter in such a type transaction, a transaction that you engage in, whether it be private or commercial, you want to equal playing field. So you already entering to a financial or commercial transaction where there's no equality between you and the one that you believe is going to give you something to your advantage. That's an absolute. Absolute. I don't even have to think about it. I don't even take a rocket scientist to figure it out. You're not entering into a relationship or a commercial transaction that you're on a level playing field. You can't be on a level playing field with Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan, Chase, Bank of America. It is impossible for you to sit down and feel like at arm's length, eye to eye, or at a distance that you could ever in any way compare with them with your financial meager little funds. So you're less than a grain of sand, or a drop of water in an entire ocean. That's how insignificant you are. So in these documents, we have learned in the revelation regarding a $700 billion deceptive business practices, fraud, misleading information, robo-signing, documents that were to be sworn to by a notary that are sitting in court records all over the country. MERS, a mortgage electronic registry system that usurped billions of dollars from small little counties, because instead of taking that mortgage that you end up with in this relationship, they put it in on what they call electronic. No more physical document. MERS is in the picture. In fact, somewhere in these documents, you'll find MERS mentioned, I believe, well, somewhere I'll show you. Okay. MERS is mentioned. So I proceed with caution. So what I say before I read this, before I get involved with this, is, oh my Lord, guide all of us to knowledge that would benefit us and save all of us, every one of us, from knowledge that will have no beneficial value to ourselves and our families. Oh my Lord, give all of us, every one of us, the knowledge to understand these things, to be free, and we seek your refuge from being duped with fraud, falsehood, illusions, trick, what is made to be fair seeming and appear to be in our best interest, but it is not. So we may form an opinion about all of this according to the reality that it holds. This is my prayer for every one of us, because all of us have been duped in some way. So you come to the table, you, your family, or you and your wife, with clean hands, honorable intentions, and a perfect creditworthiness to enter into what you believe is a uniform residential loan. A residential loan. And this is the first document that you fill out. Now I want you to notice that these documents are not on standard paper, because this stationery is called legal stationery. And legal, be very cautious of it. Every time you see the word legal, even on your dollar bill, they say this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Legal means Esquire is involved, and Esquires take the property from the common people. Their life, liberty, and their property is in the hands of Esquire or an attorney. So when you see the word legal, be cautious. You're getting ready to give up a right. Oh, your legal rights. You mean that's all I have? Your parental rights. You narrowed my rights down to an 8.5 piece of paper? We are so limited. So limited. In fact, I'd like to make this statement that I learned Martin Luther King made. And a man who was so given to his people his whole life, who God had inspired to be an orator, that you probably would never find one on his level to captivate and to draw masses of people under his voice. What would move him to make this statement, looking out over his people? Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And that's what we approach these relationships in commerce with multi-billion-dollar whales, sharks on the ocean of commerce. The deception I've learned, and what I'm saying, I didn't get from no lawyer, I didn't get it from no forensic securitization, I didn't get it from no forensic accountant. I give God all the credit, and when I give God the credit for something that I have received, it does not belong to me personally. It does not belong to me personally. You sit down, and it's the first thing that happens to you. Uniform residential loan application, branch, banking, and trust. That could be Wells Fargo, PNC, JP Morgan, whatever this bank is. You believe that you're going to get a residential loan. This application, however, this application is designed. When you do something, it's intentional. If you design it, this is intentional, and you expect a certain outcome because it's your product. It's your product. This didn't come from anywhere. Like I just said, if I receive, by the grace of God, an understanding about something, it's not mine. It doesn't belong to me. Truth is the property of every true believer. And he embraces it wherever he finds it. Once he finds truth, he knows that the power in truth is to set him free. That's the purpose of truth. So the enemy to truth has to cover the truth up with a lie, with his angel of deception, with his servant or soldier of falsehood, with his agent of creating an illusion. That's what we have to face. trickery, allurement, something that is fair seeming, appearing to be what it is not. That's what I want people to understand when they look at these kinds of documents. Every one of them. So it starts out, and why is this necessary? You've been filling out applications all your life. You ain't no dummy. You got an associate's degree. You may have a bachelor's degree. You got a master's degree, a PhD, maybe more than one. You got several degrees. But it tells you this is designed to serve a purpose. And that purpose, this application is designed to be completed. Oh, I can't complete it by myself? I got a problem reading my name and my address and giving you where I work and how much I make? Why do I have to have an application that's designed to achieve, I'm going to say, a wicked purpose? This application is designed to be completed by the applicant with the lender's assistance. The lender's assistance. Residential loan. And when you sign it, this is the first thing they tell you: borrower. You are now entering into this commercial agreement as a borrower with an application that is designed for you to be assisted with a lender. Type of mortgage and terms of the loan. Mortgage to apply for in the first box. I wasn't applying for a mortgage. I was applying for a residential loan. That's how we started this. I needed a loan. I needed the finances to purchase a home for my family. And the first box said mortgage applied for. They call it conventional, USDA, VA, or FHA mortgage. And the dollar amount is $126,000. The interest rate will be 12.7 over 360 months. Fixed rate. Next box, number 2, property information and the purpose of the loan. I thought the purpose of the loan was to get a residence. Well, if the purpose of the loan in this box says purchase is checked. Purchase what? Property will be primary residence. So I'm of the mindset that I'm getting ready to purchase a home, but since I don't have the money in hand, it's a residential loan, and it's to purchase a primary residence. Oh, but so up here it says the mortgage in terms of the loan. Now, if I do this, and I'm ready to purchase a primary residence, when I get all the way to the settlement table, when I get to closing, once from beginning to end, this commercial transaction, which I believe is to purchase a residential loan, title will be held in my name, and the manner of title, which title will be held, I'll be the sole owner. They're saying I'm going to be the sole owner. When I get to the title at the end, I will be the sole owner. That means that, where's the loan? If I'm the sole owner, that means I'm the only one that put up equity. That it will be my right to the property. So I want to get this loan, and they tell me, here's my note. They don't even put promise up there, but this is a promissory note. And number 1 in the promissory note, so he's getting a loan, says, number 1, borrowers promise to pay in return for a loan that I have received. I promise to pay US $126,000 plus whatever interest, and the lender is branch banking. Now, branch banking, if they could be a lender, somebody's going to jail, because banks are there to receive depositors' money. When I go to the bank and give branch banking a check, a money order, or cash, and this note, it is my asset. And they are liable to just hold it and protect it for me until I come back to get it. But what we don't know is this note, the reason they put branch banking up here and again appear to be a lender is they turn it over and they stamp it with what's called on the lines, paid to the order of branch banking. You mean I just paid branch banking my note? No, you just made branch banking a conduit or a servicer from this point to the settlement table. Not that they're going to loan you anything, because of what they call modern money mechanics and the Federal Reserve banking regulations and rules, you cannot loan the depositors money. See why we got to pray to be free from lies and deception and falsehood and illusion and the thing that we believe is what it isn't? Well, we have to pray to be free from sincere ignorance. We're sincere to this ignorance and conscientiously stupid. And there was another man that said, Dr. Wayne Dyer, the ultimate in ignorance is to know something about a thing and you reject it and you don't investigate it. To not know something and you reject it and you refuse to investigate it. So everything you look at here, what the average person doesn't do, they recite it. They glance at it. And the lender's assistants, he said, sign here. This means such and such. Initial that. That means so and so. But because you told me that, or you assisted me or explained it, doesn't mean it has reached my mind with understanding. But the word read, I can say, Alan, read this. Or Tom, read that. If you spell them the same way. Alan, read this, or Tom, read that. Present tense and past. So to read means to carefully examine and study and go over this until it reaches your mind with understanding. Because you're the one that's going to be liable. They say, well, you want $126,000. And they say, this is the truth in the lending. Annual percentage rate. You said you were believed to be getting a residential loan. In the first box, the cost of your credit as a yearly rate. I wanted to purchase a home. I didn't want to buy no credit. Don't tell me the cost of credit. I'm talking about the $126,000 was the cost of the property that I want to purchase from the seller. Oh, well, we're going to finance that. The dollar amount, the credit will cost you. I wanted a residential loan to purchase a home for my family. I didn't come in here to purchase no credit. I didn't come here to finance no credit. The dollar amount, the credit will cost you. You know, I've been personally involved in this kind of research for a lot of years. And the reason I speak now is because I'm very confident about what I'm talking about. So when you're a liar, when you're trying to deceive someone, they'll say, look, Tom, I'll get back with you later. I gotta go check with Alan. No, if you got the truth can't be diminished, but you can hide and cover it up with an agent of falsehood. You can take this angel of deception and put it over the truth. And now you can't see the forest for the trees. So the truth is there and it remains. So the cost of your credit, this is the truth. You're purchasing credit and the amount of the credit will cost you $369,292.37. I just wanted to get a seller $126,000. Amount financed, the amount of the credit provided to you or on your behalf is $126,000. Now, what will I pay for this $126,000? Well, the amount you will have paid after you made all payments as scheduled because they're amortized each month. And you're not paying back a loan because somewhere down here they're going to further deceive you and they're going to start calling it principal. Each month, if I was paying off a loan, how could I pay a loan off if I'm paying interest? That's not a loan. It costs the credit to you. And I'm making mortgage payments. I didn't come to purchase a mortgage. I came to purchase a home. I needed a loan to purchase a residence for my family. Oh no, but you're paying principal and interest each month. That's what we got you. We didn't get you a residence. We didn't loan you anything for a primary home. We can't loan you anything. You already had the payment statement. Tom wants to buy Alan's home for $126,000. Tom, I take Tom, note, $126,000. I give it to Alan. Am I a lender? Did I loan you $126,000? I was a conduit, a servicer to bring two parties together, make sure you have everything you need when we get the settlement. I was never a lender. I was just a conduit. But I call myself Bank of America, and you wrote pay to the order of Bank of America. So Bank of America put this in what's called a demand deposit account. You walk in the bank with $126,000 in cash. Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Brandon. This will be in your account today. You walk into the bank with a check. Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Brandon. This will be in your account no later than business day tomorrow. Oh, thank you, Mr. Borbach. I don't mind me using your names. Okay. Here's a cashier's check I got from Bethlehem Steel. Not a problem, Mr. Borbach. This will be in your account. You should be able to negotiate it within 3 business days. Oh, now what do you want to do with that? Well, tell you what. Once that clears, I'd like for you to put it into a CD or a money market. Now you got a negotiable instrument called a CD. Equal in value to what you gave them. All paper. You didn't go to Allen with $126,000 in Federal Reserve notes, but you gave him something equal in value as a negotiable instrument. And negotiable instruments are checks, cashier's checks, what they call US dollars. It's all equivalent in value. But you changed the value of this $126,000 and they got you to pay them for credit, pay them for financing, and you turned $126,000 into $500,000. That's not a loan. That's an exchange? No. That's criminal. This is deception at its highest level on the high seas of commerce. So when they finally got caught, they were so greedy, they got people in sweatshops signing that they're the vice president of the company. They got a notary seal who's absent from witnessing the signature, and he's off somewhere just taking in money. Falsified documents sitting all over the country. $700 billion bailout. But here's your mortgage. I said yesterday that when do we use the word morgue? When is the word morgue used in our family?
Somebody dies.
In death. Now what happens in death? The medical examiner, the forensic medical examiner, is the only one who is licensed and permitted to make the determination of the cause of a human being death. Right? They don't usually do autopsies to determine the cause of death for some animal or fish, because we kill them all day long. We don't need no permission to kill them, or we ain't going to jail for killing a chicken, or a cow, or a steer and eating it. But not a human body. When the human body came up, it may have been foul play. So we need to know if there's any criminal charges that need to be brought to someone who's committed murder or homicide or caused the death of someone. So you go to the morgue. And the medical examiner, he got a slab, like this table, where we just laid out all these mortgage papers. He does an autopsy. So he said, well, man didn't die from bullet wounds, wasn't stabbed, he wasn't strangled, wasn't suffocated, no sharp instrument, or we could see that may have injured his brain. They said, oh man, this guy died from, wasn't no narcotics, wasn't an overdose of narcotics. So he must have died, his expert determination, the medical examiner said, this man died from an overdose of apple cider vinegar and baking soda. He writes that on the certificate, solid, conclusion, cause of death. Calls the family, you can come pick up the remains. You can come get the dead body and dispose of it in whatever lawful manner that you want. Your religious preference, to burn it, go ahead and cremate it. We got a place for you to do that. You want to do it according to your religious belief, put it back into the earth from whence it came, with all the other mineral rights, you know what I mean, and deposit it there, it's lawful for you to do that. But that dead body, you're going to find a way to get it from around you. You can't stand it, you can't smell it, you can't tolerate it. It's not to be among living human beings anymore. There's no more connection with it. So you heard more in your family when it was dealing with death. But you sign now a document called death pledge. Death pledge. You mean to tell me you gave me something, but because I can't see the reality of it, it's dead. You give me a dead instrument to put my signature on. Oh, how you do that? Well, definitions. Words used in multiple sections of this document are defined below. Oh, they're going to define in this document. We're not going to use Merriam-Webster. We're not going to use a dictionary. Why do we need you to define the names in this document? And why do you put quotation marks around a security instrument? Quotation marks around borrower. Borrower is so-and-so. Borrower is the mortgagor under this security instrument. Why do you put quotation marks around lender? Lender is branch banking. That means that branch banking is not a lender in the everyday, ordinary use that you're going to find in the dictionary. Note means the promissory note signed by the borrower. Oh, so if this is the note in quotation marks, that note does not represent what you believe it is worth, because it says borrowers promise to pay, borrowers in quotation marks, so it's not the everyday use of it, in return for a loan that I have received. So now you get ready to be held accountable for a promise that you made. If the court could rule on promises, how many promises do you break to your family? How many promises you can't keep to your family? The court wouldn't be able to handle just promises. The court, we need contracts, valid, lawful, bona fide. That's what the court should enforce. And that's what the court is there to enforce in commercial relationships. That's why there's a saying in Scripture, Matthew 5:25. Agree with thine adversary quickly, lest he take you before the judge. And the judge will take you before the officer, and you will be cast into the prison. Because in commercial agreements, there should be no controversy. You allow me to lease or to rent your home or your apartment. I agreed to give you $500 a month. We both signed it. You gave up something in consideration to me, and I gave you the dollars that you asked for. That's equal. An equal and lawful commercial contract. But what you're going to find out here is that why isn't another signature on the note if loan means the debt evidenced by the note? How do you loan yourself money? How do you loan yourself? Loan, according to these words that they have given definition to, with quotation marks around loan, means that that's not the everyday, ordinary use of the word loan. In return for a loan that I have received. So you know what we need to do in order to untie this knot? The first thing is, could you bring the lender to the table? So he can bring us proof of a loan. There's no proof of a loan here. There is no proof of a loan. I never borrowed anything. And if the bank listed on here, they're saying they're the lender and they're entitled. No, they are a servicing agent. A conduit that brought two parties together in a transaction to bring it to a final close, a final resting place. Once all documents are presented, that's what we have to do. So, you take a dead instrument and hold it in your possession. Say, man, I gotta make my mortgage payments, man. I'm behind on my mortgage payments, man. If I get behind on my mortgage payments, what's gonna happen? Well, terms and conditions. Number 8, borrower's loan application. Remember this here? Borrower shall be in default if during the loan application process, remember you being the lender's assistance, and that the application is designed to achieve a specific purpose. And it appears to be with all these quotation marks that it is not the purpose that we believe that it holds. Borrower shall be in default if during the loan application process, borrower or any persons or entities acting at the direction of the borrower or with the borrower's knowledge or consent gave materially false, misleading, or inaccurate information or statements to the lender, or failed to provide lender with material information in connection with the loan. Material representations include, but are not limited to, representation concerning borrower's occupancy of the property as borrower's principal residence. And that simply means that you have to fill out that you're going to occupy this space here, all this certain allotted piece of land, as a family dwelling or your residence. Can't bring hogs up in here, chickens and roosters. You can't use all this certain allotted piece of land for making soap. Okay? Only occupied as a family residence. And here's another interesting thing. Mortgage insurance. What about my property? Oh, that's on you. But mortgage insurance doesn't benefit you. It benefits the holder of your note. You gave it to American Express, Countrywide, Wells Fargo. You paid to the order of that institution your note, and they can take it anywhere they want. Sell it, assign it, exchange it, because you gave them permission. Mortgage insurance. If the lender required mortgage insurance as a condition of making the loan, borrower shall pay the premiums required to maintain the mortgage insurance. In effect, if for any reason the mortgage insurance coverage required by the lender ceases to be available for the mortgage insurer that previously provided such insurance and borrower was required to make separately designated payments towards the premiums for mortgage insurance, borrower shall pay the premiums required to obtain coverage substantially equivalent to the mortgage insurance previously in effect, at a cost substantially equivalent to the cost to borrow of the mortgage insurance previously in effect. If substantially equivalent mortgage insurance coverage is not available, borrower shall continue to pay the lender the amount of the separately designated payments that were due when the insurance coverage ceased to be in effect. Lender will accept, use, and retain these payments as a non-refundable loss reserve in lieu of mortgage insurance. Such loss reserve shall be non-refundable, notwithstanding the fact that the loan is ultimately paid in full, and lender shall not be required loss reserve payments if the mortgage insurance coverage required to pay borrower any interest or earnings on such reserve. Lender can no longer in the amount and for the period the lender requires provide by a insurer selected by the lender again becomes unavailable, is obtained, and the lender requires separately designated payments toward the premiums for mortgage insurance. If lender required mortgage insurance as a condition of making the loan, and borrower was required to make separately designated payments toward the premiums for mortgage insurance, borrower shall pay the premiums required to maintain mortgage insurance in effect, or to provide a non-refundable loss reserve. Now, point I want to make, mortgage insurance, you take insurance on your home for fire, for vandalism, for earthquake or volcano eruption. But man, you take it on your car in case you have an accident. They'll compensate you for your vehicle or any bodily injury you cause to someone or property damage. Well, mortgage insurance reimburses the lender or any entity that purchases, that purchases the note for certain losses it may incur if the borrower does not repay the loan as agreed. Borrower is not a party to the mortgage insurance. Well, what did you do? You insured a mortgage, this dead instrument, and the note holder now, you said this mortgage is security if you don't make the payments. What happens if you get into an accident with your vehicle and you call the insurance company and say, well, look, I had an accident. Oh, not a problem, Mr. Brandon. Well, how much was your car worth? Oh, $80,000. Okay, well, get the adjuster to send you a check to cover that. Were there any other complications? Yeah, Mr. Schwab said he was in the accident, he had some bodily injury. Well, you got $300,000 coverage on that, $100,000 on bodily injury. We'll take care of that. Was there any other problems or any damage? Yeah, it was a fire hydrant, a light pole, and a parked car. And what did that come to? Oh, everything was about $30,000. Well, you have $50,000 in property damage. We'll cut your check today. So when you don't make your mortgage payments and you become default, they say, oh yeah, why don't you get a loan modification? Well, we're going to have to call the note holder to see if you can get a loan modification. Because you said this was fixed for 30 years. Well, he calls back and says, well, Mr. Vornbrock, is he in default? No, he's up to date. He was just saying that he's had some family problems and it looked like he might not be able to make his payments and he needed to do a modification at this time or to make sure that he can continue to pay as agreed. Well, I'm going to have to take it to the note holder to see if he will accept it. Well, Mr. Vornbach, I spoke to Mr. Brandon, the note holder right now. He must have purchased a mortgage about 2 months ago. He purchased your note. So I had to go to him, and he said he's not going to permit it this time. Why didn't he permit it? I told him I don't want to get behind. Well, it's really no concern. He's the note holder. Your mortgage insurance is to cover his interest, not yours. So they called back a couple months later. You know that guy, Vornbach, we told you? Mr. Brandon was, asking you to do that modification. Well, yeah, he's in default 3 months now. Yeah, he must have been the fool thinking I was going to give him some modification before he had the accident. How was I going to collect my $500,000 on the mortgage? You can't call in a claim until the day of the accident. We got enough pressure on him now? Not a problem. Call in, get my mortgage insurance paid, the $500,000, and we still gonna drag his behind up in court. And suing for injury and damages. But can you actually bring a claim when you didn't put up anything? You are not injured. There's no damages to you. Yeah, if you're dealing with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. So you go through here, RESPA's involved, real estate settlement procedure. You got to do this occupancy agreement that you're going to occupy. And then they give a list of all the things for final closing instructions. For the bank will send your note over to them. Well, no, they ain't going to send the note. They're going to take the cash, the equivalent to your note. They ain't going to send the $500,000 to the settlement table. They're going to send the $126,000 that you applied for to the settlement table. They'll take care of you getting that $500,000 later. Because you're going to get them that over a period of 30 years. Unless you default and the note holder calls his claimant to get paid. Now this is very interesting. You're at the settlement table and they tell you this is the borrower and this is a summary of the seller. Well, there's only two things going on here. You applied to purchase a primary residence and the seller agreed to sell it to you. So what do we have here? There's a couple things I'm going to hold out from the tape right now. You know how it is, man, that's all you got to do. We could do this, we could do that. But see, if you're not the surgeon, you really can't perform the operation. You can assist the surgeon. You can watch him for 20 years. But he may not show up one day in time and say, well, look, I've been watching Ahmed for the last 15, 20 years. I pass him all his tools when he needs them. But you can't perform the operation. Mm-hmm. You don't even have the dexterity in your hand that God gave me to be a surgeon. Mm-hmm. You don't have the dexterity in your hands and fingertips to be a piano player if God didn't give it to you. You can't go to school and get dexterity in your hands to be a surgeon. You can't get the dexterity in the class that you take to play the piano. You already have in you the substance and sustenance to perform as God intended for you. So this is what's very interesting. Affidavit of purchaser. The undersigned being duly sworn, depose and say, number one, pursuant to a purchase agreement dated October the 8th, 2007, in purchasing from John Doe, hereinafter called the seller, the following property and the address. Number two, the total consideration for the purchase of the said property is $140,000, which is the purchaser's equity. Now the purchaser has an equity interest of value in the property. Now this equity payment of this amount, $140,000, has been, has been or will be at the closing paid by me from money or property owned by me prior to the transaction and not derived from borrowed funds. All the way down here, you thought you were a borrower. They made you believe you were borrowing something from an institution that can't loan you anything. I can't come to the settlement table with borrowed funds. So what did I come with? Did I bring my note? No, I had a conduit or an agent or servicer that held my note in a demand account until I demanded it from him to send it to the settlement table. He sent the cashier's check that was equivalent to my note. So now, there is no agreement or understanding under which any portion of the purchaser's equity payment or mortgage proceeds is to be refunded directly or indirectly. So once you get to that settlement table, they lock you down. No such refund has been made, nor will any such refund be accepted. So what does the seller say? The seller, now these are sworn statements. This is not just something written on a piece of paper. These have been notarized and sworn to by the purchaser and the seller in this transaction. The seller on the subject property does hereby make the following statements. I acknowledge the receipt of payment in full in the amount stated in the contract or the purchase for the purchase of the property. The seller said they got the full amount. I declare that the purchaser of the said property are in no way indebted to me, the owner of the property, saying at the settlement, they don't owe me nothing. I declare that the purchaser of the said property in no way indebted to me. To the best of my knowledge, this is sworn to, or belief, and my belief, the said purchaser do not have outstanding any unpaid obligations, here's the settlement sheet, any unpaid obligations contracted in connection with the purchase, or if it was a building, it was being built, the construction of said property, other than if he is so sincerely ignorant and conscientiously stupid that he wants to attach a mortgage in favor of some lending bank that never loaned him anything, that was never a party to the transaction. And what did it say on this application down there, Tom? After you get the closing, it says, borrows information. It says property information and purpose of the loan. Purpose of the loan was the purchase, and the purpose of the loan was the purchase of primary residence. Well, we learned a lot more than that. So once we do that, purchase of residence, the title will be held in what name? And here's the title. The title will be held in the manner as sole owner. Well, where's the bank? Where's the lender? Who else has equity? I thought we were getting a residential loan. And the seller said that the purchaser is nowhere indebted to me. They don't owe me anything. The only thing on that deed is your name and your wife's name. Because you are the only two that have any interest, except that you allowed them to deceive you into purchasing mortgage applied for. Now, there's a lot going on here, because fraud is when something is done intentionally. And I truly believe that this was not unintentional. They've been doing it too long and to too many people. That's why they have so many lawsuits being settled against. I just got a list. It should be on my email on all of the settlements, not all of them, but ones we can come up with just for Wells Fargo. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to present now is that it appears that we may have been a victim of a criminal on the high seas of commerce. We came to this relationship, this transaction, to purchase a home with clean hands, with good faith and honor, with credit worthiness, perfect enough to warrant that. And we believed that we were going to receive a residential loan. But somewhere in the course of all this, that didn't happen. And we've learned from all over the country, not innocent purchasers, the innocent ones, but they have duped cities and states. These multi-billion-dollar whales on the ocean of commerce. Even the creation of MERS was an attempt to take this dead document, more morgue electronic register. We got a lot of heat on us right now. So the big banks got together and said, we're going to have to find a way to get rid of them. These dead instruments, we can't have them coming in to the county clerk's office like this is sworn to, that they're the sole owners. We can't have that tissue paper sitting up in there with all those robo-signings, falsified notaries all over the country. Even the attorney generals who arrest criminals in commerce, they regulate them. So when we send a notice to known criminals with all those convictions on them for lawsuits, for discrimination, for deceptive business practices, we're going to tell them that we will notify you, Mr. Attorney General, Mr. Federal Trade Commission, bless you. We're going to send a carbon copy to you all because we feel that we are victims and we have been jeopardized, our integrity, our good faith, and our honor. And we call on you because you are regulated in these so-called commercial transactions. Now we could be wrong. They may be free of any blame. But you know, you just can't be too careful nowadays. So reasonably, a court holds you to what a reasonable or a prudent man would have done or should have done under the circumstance. So if you was in an accident, some people they have wreck chasers. They come up to the accident and say, look, here's my card, man, get in touch with me, I'm lawyer so-and-so. Mm-hmm. Or they call it wreck chasing. Mm-hmm. So Global Response Consulting, this is the name that I put on us. I told you this is like going to the morgue with a forensic medical examiner lays out a dead body to determine the cause of death. Well, we just laid out a transaction regarding a mortgage, which is a dead instrument. Mm-hmm. So I call this, the brothers I work around, we the MERS team. Mortgage Emergency Rescue Surgery Team. We got a doctor in the room, I forgot to drop that on her. Oh, you can cut that, man. We having too much fun. I never thought I had as much fun slaying dragons. Oh, man. Oh, boy.